So why don't we start off with Rhonda, who's president of Aprium Advisors. Rhonda, the show is yours, and thank you.
Well, thank you, John. I appreciate it. And I'm glad to be here today talking about this important subject. I agree with everything that you just mentioned. Again, Rhonda Ducote with Aprium Advisors. I'm the senior wealth manager as well as the president and chief compliance officer. Aprium's been around for 22 years. I started my career at a discount brokerage firm, and after spending about 7.5 years there dealing with hundreds and hundreds of clients, I really wanted to get back to the basics of sitting across the desk from individuals, families, and organizations, and really diving deep into their whole financial picture. So back in the year 2000, I joined the two co-founders, Harmon Kong and Mark Iwamoto. And here we are 22 years later, doing what we love, which is really exemplifying everything there is to do, from financial planning to estate planning, tax efficiency, and so on and so forth, really giving our clients significant upon all of their successes. And so what we do is we first start with the plan. We make sure that every client that walks through our door, we understand them completely, everything from their family to their finances, their health, and to make sure that all the T's are crossed and the I's are dotted for their picture. We do offer, as I mentioned, we only work with individuals, families, and organizations, but we do offer three areas of specialty. Back in my early days, if I can go back that far, one of the things that bothered me the most was when I would sit across the table from a husband and a wife. I would have the husband, ask all of the hard questions and want to talk about the market and their portfolio, but really the wife or the spouse really didn't ask a lot of questions, and that always bothered me. They kind of just sat there and let their husband do all the talking. So back in 2014, I launched our Women of Wisdom specialty, which was really to educate, empower women to take control of their finances. It's been very successful over the last 6 years. We offer it to all of our clients here. They bring in, and how it relates to the whole wealth transfers, they bring in their daughters or their sisters or their mothers, and they really empower them to understand where their assets are at, why they have them there, how many institutions they have there, and really what's going to happen after the first death of the relationship. And so it bodes to this whole conversation that we're having today. So that's one area of expertise, is to really focus on women and their transition in life, whether it be a death or a divorce. The second area is our industrial practice. We really concentrate on retirees who worked for the same company for 30 or 40 years. And really, they're the blue collar workers of the world that really haven't had a focus on it. Typically, when you're in wealth management, you're going after those high net worth individuals who have significant amount of assets under their management or under their control, and they kind of already know what they're doing and why they're doing it. And so we launched this about 9 years ago with one of our senior wealth managers, Landon Yoshida, and he was working for a big brokerage house at the time, and he was focusing on these blue collar workers. And so what we did was we said, why don't we make that a specialty, because we really understand their pension services, what they offer, and how can we help them transition through retirement when they don't know a lot about it. All they know is what they did for work, and they give it 150%, but they didn't really pay attention to their finances. So we've really taken an action there with all of the services we provide, and we lead them through. The third area of expertise, in my opinion, is a lot of our clients are very philanthropic. So we launched our charitable services a few years back, where we manage not only our clients like donor advised funds and enter that into their plan, but we also manage endowments for charities that we're involved with in the community here in California. We have 3 locations. We're in Orange County, California, Irvine, also an office in La Jolla, as well as Torrance. So we offer, services through the greater part of Southern California. Like I said, I'm really excited to talk about this topic.
I remember that back in the days when I ran a trust department, the only time certain beneficiaries met the grantors of the trust were at family meetings that we would shepherd, and they'd be sometimes dysfunctional. How do you sit on the same side of the table with both sides so that A, you're doing your job, but B, you're also working to solicit the next generation? What's the trick in doing that?
Yeah, I think that's a great question. I think we all have our challenges with, with that. And it's happened way too often where you have a lot of dysfunction, in a family where there's either estrangement or, between siblings or, so we try early on to have those family meetings, to understand the dynamics of each family, and then almost play like a psychiatrist or psychologist role in navigating between the issues that family members have. And so clearly, the three main things that come to mind, when we first sit down with a family is like what's important to you, right? It's usually your family, your health, and your finances. Those are the three main things that keep families going. And so when we talk about finances, typically, people fight over money. I mean, it is a big issue for most people, especially when you've created a lot of wealth. So having the conversation early, understanding that people have different personalities and different dynamics, every family does, but try to keep them on the same page. Sometimes we have to divide them up, especially if there's some dysfunction in there and there's people are arguing and not getting along, and one may feel like they deserve more than the other, when it comes to mom and dad's money or grandma or grandpa's money. And so the word fair typically comes up a lot. What's fair? I was involved more, so I deserve more. And that causes dysfunction. And so you really have to take a step back and go, okay, what one was the intent of for mom and dad, and get their input on it. And sometimes you do have to separate the two and try to, dig through the dysfunction and try to bring everybody back to the common goal, that you don't want litigation, you don't want arguing after the first or second death. And, again, this is wealth that's been built over many, many decades, and you don't want it squandered. So we kind of come back to the common, topic of what's in the best interest for everyone. So again, I love family meetings. They typically work out the best. So I love how you said that. I think, bringing in this next gen, clearly technology is something I want to comment on what Skip and Brittany, said, and even Catherine, real quick, because I think it is difficult for us who are in, middle-aged, and we're not used to all the technology. And how do you get all of these people like really excited about, the next gen excited about finance? And it's typically the blogs or the chats, clearly, all, even this, the new normal of Zooming or, go-to meetings, and with the COVID situation, is to keep them involved with technology. I love that. We're looking into doing an AppRim app, because I think that most of the next gen want to do things on their phones and be involved that way, and what excites them. And so we're having to change our culture a little bit, and bringing in the younger advisors and planners and CFAs. And so I just thought I'd comment real quickly on that. But the family meetings are fantastic to dive into a lot of the dysfunction, and hopefully we can get through it with minimal pain.
Yeah, and I think Skip referred to this before. What I'm finding is content is still king. That in many respects, the next generation looks at many of the things we do, whether they're trusts or wealth transfer vehicles, as pipes, almost like a cable system. But they want to know what flows through the pipes, and content, whether it's interesting things on philanthropy or generosity, or things that from an investment standpoint touch more than just math, but actually touch value, seem to be very important. And I guess you're all finding that in your practices, it seems to be a common theme. Here's a question for everyone, which is, how do you know you're building the right technology? I think we sometimes get lost in buzzwords, which says we should have an app, or we should have a blog, or we should have something that's linked to social media, without necessarily having a full understanding of how that brings the business down to the next generation. So please, all of you, someone raise your hand and volunteer first. How do you know you're getting the right technology?
You know, we use e-money, which we can do all of those things that Brittany was talking about, like linking outside accounts up so they can see it. And I think where you tie the app into that too is that the next gen, they don't want to log on to a laptop or a computer. They want to log on to their phone because they can take their phone with them anywhere. And so to be able to see all of that from your palm is really where I think that you know, has a lot of attraction for the next gen. You know, so again, the weekly webinars, we've been doing a ton of those, and it goes to our website. I totally agree with Skip. The way we do business is completely changed. I was the biggest naysayer when this whole thing started, and I've been proven wrong. So we've been so much more productive. I just said that this morning in our team meeting. I said, you know, we've been so much more productive and so much more efficient doing business this way. We're reaching out and talking to more clients than we ever have in as far as in-person meetings before, because we do offer quarterly reviews, but now we can do many more throughout the day this way, because, you know, you're not, you know, waiting, you know, and maybe doing 2 or 3 appointments a day, you can do 5 or 6. So again, especially now that we have the technology, and one thing I will add on that is that you have to be willing to adapt to change and changing technology and getting the most current and being able to upgrade if need be to the, you know, to the best. And so we're always doing, you know, my team is great with, you know, doing demos of various different technology sites, whether it be e-money or, you know, the app. We're doing the app thing right now, which, you know, they're interviewing several different companies. Our financial planning software is fantastic. But most importantly, how we know we're doing, you know, we're reaching out, we're getting it, we track it, which I think is very important, whether it's hits on the website, the blogs, the webinars. So every week we know who's clicking on what, our weekly updates to our newsletter, as well as, you know, actually asking our clients what they want and sending out surveys to get their feedback on what they want to see. And it's not just our current clients, but it is our clients' children and grandchildren, and they're giving us ideas to make sure that, you know, that we're keeping them engaged too. Because I mean, on one phone call, I think we had one webinar, we had 5 generations of clients, you know, so you have to be able to attract and keep them engaged from whatever type of technology they have, you know, because our older clients don't like this, but the younger clients do. So you kind of have to adapt and keep current and be willing to change.
It's interesting, you know, right now I think there's a pivot going on between exclusion to values, saying oil and gas, no good, fossil fuels, no good. But I think with the social justice movements and some of the other things, there's going to be more and more saying, okay, enough about what we're excluding. Who are we rewarding by our investment dollars, by putting money in there right now? And I think we're all feeling our way through that right now. Rhonda, anything you want to add to that discussion about inclusion versus exclusion and things you're seeing?
Yeah, you know, I mean, going back to what Brittany said as well, I think that, you know, right out of the gate, we talk about, you know, what our clients, you know, are there any restrictions? We've had the questions of, you know, we only want, you know, social, you know, companies that, you know, social responsible companies doing X, Y, and Z. And it kind of limits, you know, our investment decisions clearly. But right out of the gate, we want to know if there's any restrictions and what their thoughts are as far as the investment. So a lot of our clients will exclude certain sectors per se, or maybe certain companies because they don't like who's, you know, running them or just what they stand for. I want to go back to one of the questions: what makes you the most uncomfortable in conversation we had? I actually had a client say, okay, I don't want any Republican stocks. And I'm like, I don't know if I know what that is. So, I mean, it was just kind of funny because people have their own viewpoint, and, you know, it doesn't matter what side of the aisle you sit on, but to have that said, I was like, it stumped me. so, so I was like, okay, but yeah, we asked those questions up front. I think the individual surveys are really key and really great. So lots of great ideas that everyone's doing. So love it.
Hey, we have 2 minutes left. I'll tell you what, everyone, just pick one thing that you would give as advice to our audience in terms of dealing with generational wealth transfer. And you all have less than 2 minutes because we have a total of 2 minutes.
I'll start with, start the conversation early, as Skip just said. The earlier you start the conversation and teach kids about the value of money and what your intentions are for the money, and ease into it and add to those conversations as they mature into teenage years and into their early 20s. So everyone is prepared, and be very open about it.